But isn't it the same quality on what they're putting in here that you put in up in the White House down Talbot County has to pay for?
Right. It's a similar problem in that neither system are working for the county, and also that is pretty good. You have to have people.
Ladies and gents, we're going to wait a little bit for some people to arrive, but I want to orient you. We have a station over there where Carla is, and that's a message to the county council, as if you're sending them off on their honeymoon, whatever you'd like to say very briefly about that message board, which is we need a vote and adoption. And over on this side is another station you see. You're wondering what that is. That's Buck and Mike Hash to take your little video clip to the county council of whatever it is you'd like to say to them briefly, ever so briefly, about Lakeside. And these messages will get to the county council. So please do these things because it's part of evidencing the community's participation in this. Thanks. Rally will begin shortly.
You gotta help.
Well, I was thinking that today too. This is an issue that crosses. That's right. No, we're not. Too much diesel fuel.
Wham! First opportunity.
I think what you can do, what you can do is comprehensive plan.
The rally is not quite ready to kick off. I want to invite you all.
Well, he's got
The
a.
speaker and
He has a permit.
platform's up here, and everybody's back there. So we'll go forward. The main thing is I want to tell you some things going on. Right over there where Mike Hash is waving his hand, that's where you have an opportunity to say to the county council in 3 seconds, 15 seconds, a minute, what you like, that I'm Dan Watson, and I live in Adeley, and I'd like to tell you Lakeside is a problem, or whatever it is you wish to see. We're going to have a collection of those clips that are going to be delivered to the county council. Over here, where Mr. Hughes is signing the board, is the message du jour. And the message du jour is we need a vote on Lakeside, and it needs to be adopted. Please sign that board. Do not get out of here without signing the board. It's a manifestation of the community's interest. Kirk Harper in the back has reset lake signs for you, which are not just the date with you when you leave, but pick one up now because I bet you'll be waving that sign during this speechifying because we've got the message to send Talbot County. There's a little table over here behind the chair where you are getting email addresses and names. Even if you are on TIP's email list, please sign that up because I've got a lot of emails and I have no idea whose names are, so I don't have them going. So please take a second to do that also. And we're going to wait just a couple more minutes before kicking off. And think about the energy of organizing this. Please do take advantage of these little stations with Mr. Hash here on the video clip, sign-up board. And did we mention Rise Up Free Coffee? Thank you. Folks, if you'll all come forward, we'll start this rally and have some discussions. And it isn't going to start till you all come forward. So how about that as a deal? Sing the song of angry men. It is the music of the people. It's really completely inappropriate for me to hijack that line, because these were real live people in the 1730s, 1830s, who were seeking representative democracy. We have representative democracy right here in Talbot County, and look what we got. What are we doing with it? Because this issue has to do with not that we're being denied our rights in that respect, it is having things implemented properly. So the three things that I think we want to do here today. One is I want to convey to you all in a little more detail than that clip where things stand, where we are. This is not the rally that was anticipated when it was first contemplated and began to be set up a week ago. The second thing is to find out what you all want to do about it. Not what I want to do about it, but you all want to do about it. And then the third thing is to answer questions as they come up. So where are we? So this is not the rally that was expected. The rally was expected is that on Tuesday night, the Reset Lakeside legislation would be introduced, and we were going to be here to applaud those council people who have supported Reset Lakeside and who TIP endorsed, and who were going to be out there doing, representing us, doing as we had, we and many in the community had urged them to do for Reset Lakeside. And probably we would have reviewed the numerous reasons why Reset Lakeside needs to be adopted. But that's not what's going on. I'm not going to get into all the reasons why Reset Lakeside's necessary. You all have heard it a million times, probably got it memorized and don't need to hear me talk about it again, except I want to emphasize this. Different people have different reasons. They don't like the aesthetics, they don't like the pollution, specifically the pollution or this, that, and the other. I just want to remind everyone that the reason TIP got organized and is fighting so hard for Reset Lakeside has to do with good government. There are two facets of this story that I personally and TIP, which is I'm the spokesperson for TIP, and it's my views, focus on, and that's good government. It has to do with the Planning Commission. The Talbot County Planning Commission is our volunteer organization, or the volunteers, private citizens, not political people, who make decisions about the comprehensive plan. And they made a decision over a year ago. Their decision was Lakeside is not consistent with the Talbot County comprehensive plan. The former county council ignored them, ignored it, and he went away along with it. It's not right. So that is the first reason. The second reason, another good government reason, which is the approval of Resolution 281, which was the Talbot County's sole green light with regard to Lakeside. The approval of that was based on falsehoods. And I've talked about that in detail, and I can get into it now. But I do want to note that for well over a year, at least a year, the allegations that I've made I have never heard a single challenge that says, no, that wasn't right, and it's not the way it came down. And I've quoted chapter and verse, some of which you've read from the transcripts of the Planning Commission and the county council meetings. Their words, not my words. The foundation of Lakeside's approval is based on falsehoods. How can that stand? It would be outrageous if it was a little podunk 3 units down on, out poured over or something. And that foundation is for the biggest, most impactful project ever to arrive in Talbot County. $1 billion deal. $1 billion deal. I also want to clarify, because there's been a lot of confusion about this, why Reset Lakeside legislation, the Reset Lakeside legislation is what we want to have adopted. And it just sounds crazy that TIP, anyway, is not opening its arms to the idea of, well, we'll do some other variation. We're we're going to look into alternative arrangements and so forth. You know, what's the big daggone deal? Is it pride of authorship or something? And people are starting to talk about, well, we're not going to reset Lakeside, but we're going to work on something else. So let me explain why reset Lakeside is essential. As I alluded earlier, Lakeside, as you know, was annexed over 20 years ago into the town of Trenton. All of that property is town of Trenton. It is regulated in its entirety by the town of Trenton. Zoning, which can change, inspections, everything is regulated by the town. The county's got nothing to do with it, except none of it could happen unless the Talbot County Planning Commission found the project is consistent with the comprehensive plan, which is what they did long ago on inadequate information. And then the county council could adopt it. And if the planning commission says it's not consistent, they can't adopt it. And I just said that's what they did. So the reason the Reset Lakeside legislation, the specific wording, is important is if we don't, is that the consequence of that legislation is that Resolution 281 is rescinded. We go back to the beginning point. Anything, and if we don't do that, Talbot County has nothing to say about Lakeside. I mean, you know, everybody can pretend that we're going to look into other changes. You know, you can think of things, well, they could change this, they could change that. Talbot County's got nothing to say about it, unless Resolution 281 is rescinded and the Lakeside reset legislation, which is because it is a tricky legal sequence, but they all fall such that is resolved. So that, anyway, too much on that. That's why it's important. So we're not talking about all the details of Lakeside. Let's talk about what we should be talking about are the problems with Lakeside. What we should be talking about is the developer, Rock's Development, and all their professional supporters, and chastising them. Rock's Development and all their supporters, I'm pretty sure, are sitting by the fire laughing at us right now, because it really is pretty outrageous. It's the gang who couldn't shoot straight, all right? And here's why. We should be talking about Lakeside, and we're not. We should be talking about the county council members who have never supported our attitude, which is Lakeside needs to be reset for a host of reasons. Who are those people? Mr. Callahan has never supported us, and from day one has always supported Lakeside for reasons that mystify me to this moment. Wouldn't even hear us last year when we had things to talk about. Mr. Stepp, to his credit, has been honest in always making clear that he really had no interest in resetting Lakeside. We ought to be here having a lot of who struck John about those county council members not being wise enough to see the problems. We're not talking about that. We could be here talking about Ms. Haith, who was one of the three other county council members, and it has become apparent is the person who Tip, I will say, and many others had certainly thought was in support of Reset Lakeside. It was why Tip endorsed it. That was our understanding. And it is apparent now, as you may have read in an email I just sent out, and there's a host of evidence of the matter, is not of the mind to support Reset Lakeside. We could be talking about Ms. Haith and so forth. We're not even talking about that. Because what we wanted was the introduction of the Reset Lakeside resolution to come to a vote. And on Thursday, I finally ascertained that no member of the Talbot County Council intends to introduce that legislation. Think about that. It's not coming to a vote. if it doesn't come to a vote, then there's no accountability. Bear with me. So there are three reasons why Reset Lakeside legislation really must be introduced. Must be introduced. If Talbot County is ever going to do anything about Lakeside. The first is, for the reasons I just told you, there's nothing else it can do if it doesn't rescind Resolution 281. It's all down a trap. And there are those among us who believe the town of Trapp is, let's use the words, highly influenced by the developer, Rocks Engineering. Read into highly influenced, whatever you wish. But all of the controls are in the town of Trapp. If we don't rescind it, there are not real alternatives that work. Secondly, if it's not introduced, it can't be passed. We want it passed. Can I hear an amen to that? Amen. If it's not introduced, it doesn't get passed. It has to actually be introduced and seconded. But my goodness, there were 7 candidates running in the Talbot County election who voiced support for Reset Lakeside, 3 of whom voiced support for Reset Lakeside, and we had endorsed them, and 1. And what are we sitting here today, or standing here today, talking about? Introducing this legislation? That many would be gobsmacked to have thought some time back that this is what we'd be talking about. And the third reason it has to be introduced is that if it's not introduced, there will never be any accountability. There is no way for the citizens of Talbot County to actually know what council members are doing if they don't vote on this. And indeed, Tip and Watson believe that the only rationale for not introducing this, given the fact that it has been ascertained that there are not 3 votes on the council for it, is to maintain collegiality and keep there from being such such friction within the council that it would be create a difficult situation. But that's their business. Our business is, as citizens, to see how our council members, what they believe. Are they, we need to know we need to give them the opportunity to show us how they're going to vote, how they do vote, explain to us why they vote that way. Maybe there's an excellent reason. And how they reconcile their vote with what they represented to us, to the community, not just us, to the community at large just a couple of months ago. How can it be reconciled? Folks, maybe there's a way to reconcile it. Maybe there was a misunderstanding. We're big people, we're adults, we can listen to them. And then what do? Then we as citizens judge. But without that transparency, which is foundational to a democracy and the citizens' ability to evaluate their representatives, without that transparency, we're lost. And the voice of the people in that ditty was all about a democracy that works. And this is an example when democracy doesn't work, in my opinion. So that is the update. Now Next thing that I want to find out is, what do you all want to do about it? What do you all want to do about it? You're the folks who had the interest, time, and ability to come out here and talk about it, gather, even in the face of that news. So one alternative is that we all put our tails between our legs and slink off and don't say much about it. Okay, let's see the hands. No, I'm not asking for that. Okay. And then the other thing is, are we going to act? Are we going to act? Well, you can't have a rally without a chant. There's Jim Richardson. He told me that. You can't have a rally. So 3 times around, let's do Reset Lakeside. You ready? Reset Lakeside.
Reset Lakeside. Reset Lakeside.
All right, now let me tell you a little story. You may have witnessed this just last week. But last Tuesday night, this last meeting, over 40 citizens, supporters of Reset Lakeside, on short notice, many of them prominent citizens who were reached out to and said absolutely. They came to the Talbot County Bradley room right over there and sat patiently for 90 minutes of a typical meeting, gathered together in support of Reset Lakeside. The height of politeness are we. And that was a manifestation of it. We have endeavored, notwithstanding this slugfest on facts and on the story and the history and so forth, to be emphatic, but to be polite and to be appropriate in our behaviors. And I think we've, others might disagree, but I think while relentless and a pain, I think we've done that. And that was in perfect manifestation. 40-odd people sitting there quietly. When it came time at the tip end of the meeting for public comment, the normal situation, and what the council may have expected, is it would be a circus parade of 42 people jumping up 3 minutes at a crack, saying virtually the same thing, and with much disarray and so forth. It's not what happened. Those county council people knew who those 40-odd people were, knew they were all there for Reset Lakeside, know what all the facts are in the message. One person, Tim Curtin from Rise Up for Coffee, on behalf of all 42, pre-arranged, as you may have said or saw, read a short 3-minute statement, perfectly serious, emphasizing the seriousness on the key elements of good government of this. This is Tip's message, that the Planning Commission's decisions are legally the decision that matters, and the county council ignored it. And it looks like this county council might be wanting to ignore it. And that the entire business was based on falsehood from day one.
Reset Lakeside. Reset Lakeside.
Well, here's the point of that little story. You know, maybe the problem here is that we have been not too noisy and in your face, but too quiet. Maybe we've been too polite. I hate to think that the way democracy works is that what you have to say isn't the thing, or the facts that underline what you're saying is the thing. But I got to tell you, nobody's been all that impressed by reading the transcripts that tell you the Lakeside was okayed on a misunderstanding. It would be one thing if the county council didn't know any of that, but they know it now. The only time until 2020 that the Lakeside had come before the Talbot County Council for approval, it was turned down 5-0 flat. Didn't even send it to the Planning Commission because the council members understood that it was a non-starter. And sitting on that council was Tom Duncan, right here. Let's give it up for Tom Duncan. Okay? And that was not represented to the planning commission. That was known to the developer and the professionals, everything. But the county council had turned over a bunch of times, and the planning commissioners had turned over. Nobody knew it, and they were told otherwise. And they believed it. Well, that was then. But now everybody knows. Anyway, I'm getting into the weeds. I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. So if our problem is that we're too quiet, too polite, too much body language like this, too much body language, okay? And our body language has got to be like this, okay? We need another chant. I think it's, we want a vote. We want a vote. We want a vote. Because we're entitled to a vote. We're entitled to a vote. If they vote however you want, if you're going to turn it down, we're adult human beings, we can take it. But we want to know what the vote is. We want to know if it's, well, whatever. We want to know why. And if it isn't consistent with what we understood, we'd like some explanation as to how it is reconciled. So now we come to action. Somebody said, what are we going to do? Well, I'm thrilled that everyone came out here. Who's here? If you came here to support Watson, if you came here to support Tip, we're not going anywhere. Because, and I know you know this message is coming, Tip has done what Tip can do. Watson has done what Watson can do. The point of diminishing returns is back there. There is no member of this Talbot County Council, no member who welcomes a phone call from me or to hear it all over again. You know that. I cannot be that spokesperson. I should not have been all along. And one reason or another, it unfolded that way. If we are going to make progress, and there is action that can be taken, it has to be taken not by Watson, not by Tip. I'm dead serious. It is you who put the ball over the line. You and your contact list. Everybody here has received emails from me, and take as pro forma that tagline and please forward this on to your friends, and maybe it happens occasionally. Folks, doesn't happen, you're gonna have trouble. So here's what could happen. The community of people interested in resetting resetting Lakeside in Talbot County, they need to pick up the ball. The intention had been, the expectation had been set up that Reset Lakeside was going to be adopted this coming Tuesday night. It would be introduced, voted on, and adopted on Tuesday night, the 24th. Made a big deal about that. Well, that's not a legal requirement, as it was pointed out to me yesterday. It's, of course not. I knew that. I forgot it. So there is another meeting. The next county council meeting is the 14th of February. 3 weeks out. And the kinds of questions that flow from this discussion can be put to our county council members, all 5 of them. And it is an outrage that we're not talking about the people who are opposing us, Callahan, and apparently Mr. Stepp, and apparently Ms. Haith, but because we're having to be upset about the inability to get the thing introduced, we're actually talking about our friends, Ms. Milkey and Mr. Lesher, with whom who we supported and who support Reset Lakeside. And I do want to speak to that for a moment, because everybody knows that Pete Lesher has been a champion for Reset Lakeside and stood by Tip. Is that right? It is right. The reason Mr. Lesher was at the head of all the Tip signs and what have you is because it was he who had the spine last August of 21 to step up and introduce the rescission motion that came out of that petition that you might remember. And he did that even though he was beaten up by 4 other county council people. He did it anyway, and it got us to where we are. I respect enormously, no one questions Mr. Lesher's integrity or anything to that effect. I respect that, of course, and also his years in office. He's been many years on the Talbot County Council, years before that in the Eastern Council. And he and Ms. Milkey, who's following his lead, I think, no reason to think anything the least bit different there, difference in experience, but nevertheless, you get my point. It's not about being upset in that respect. This is a bona fide, legitimate difference of opinion for Talbot County, what is the more important? And I believe, and Tip has been advocating, that, you know, even if there aren't 3 votes, are we disappointed? Amen, huh? Yeah, we're disappointed. But we're entitled to a vote. We want to vote, and it's important for Talbot County that we have a vote for the reasons I've already said 3 times. And to not bring it to a vote, to pretend, well, we're going to work on something else, that there is nothing else if you don't rescind 281, it probably would keep things a little quieter in the courthouse, a little quieter at executive sessions, and everybody would be, because, you know, poor Mr. Lesher and others, they've got 4 years. We don't have to be involved in other conflicts for 4 years. We can walk away. And I respect all of that. But on balance, for Talbot County, it's important that Reset Lakeside is done. So my view is the focal point needs to be the next meeting, because it is not coming up. The agenda is already printed. It is not coming up on Tuesday night. There is public comment, and that sign-in board, and if anybody here hasn't taken a minute to go over and put your John Hancock on that, please do it. If anybody out of this has suddenly thought of something they would like to say to the council, Mr. Hash and Mr. Waller would be happy to take a little snippet over there. If you haven't given me your email address and name and you're here, take it just a second, would you? And do that right over there behind there. There are Reset Lakeside yard signs. I expected to see them all waving here as I was speaking, but in any event, take them with you. They're not doing any good in the back of anybody's garage. Take them with you and put them out on the main roads. We got 3 weeks, okay? Put it in your yard, but put it on the main road if you can. Find an appropriate place. I'm going to urge others to speak, and both with questions and comments. And I think now's the time for that. You want to?
No, I'm just saying. Fletcher was saying, "Oh, I want to produce it because I can't get gas. I can't get a second." Fine, let him produce it.
I was not told that he does not have a second.
Well, that's what I read in what you said today. But my point is, if you really support this, let him produce it. He's left alone, and there's no second. That is a vote. We know these other 2 didn't second it, so they voted against it.
This is Jim Smallin. Let's hear Mr. Smallin's got a point of view. I don't disagree with that. One iota. Jim, don't tell me this. Don't tell these people this. Who do you need to tell that to? Okay? And maybe you've got a next door neighbor who can send that email too. Maybe you pick up the phone. I don't know, folks. Telling Dan Watson with the notion that Dan Watson will tell any council member something, that's not a productive item. just a second. Does anyone have a comment that they want to make here? Because it is around me. Mr. Bartlett. Seems to be some support for that here. But to your question, has there ever been any consideration of voting as a first step to remove the county attorney? I know of no such thing. He serves at the pleasure of the county attorney, of the county council, sorry, of course. There's been in the public, from the public end, much criticism, but it's their call, and I don't know of anything of that sort. Here's an important thing to Mr. Bartlett's comment. There's no question that the county council receives legal advice from the county attorney, almost always, not in every case, but almost always in private session in the executive committee, so nobody knows what's being said. An example of the kind of thing that could be said that would be a consideration that council would take into account, no reason why they couldn't talk about it publicly, is that, my goodness, if we reset Lakeside, there's going to be a lawsuit. A lawsuit from the developer. Well, surprise. That might be. But there are two things that, this is like rebuttal without the objection having been made, but it's probably being made in a private session. First of all, I bet nobody here knows, except Mr. Bartlett, that Talbot County, through the Maryland Association of Counties, has a legal insurance policy that pays the legal bills when there are big disputes of this sort. And should there be a legal battle, so you'll be telling some council people could think, my God, that would cost us $1.5 million. We can't do that. Well, God forbid, it does cost a lot of money, but we have an insurance policy for it. You know that. The second thing is, in terms of the situation with Lakeside, this has to do with the vesting and the idea, my goodness, it's too late. They've already built the houses. They had these permits, blah, 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 blah. So there'll be a lawsuit and we're going to lose anyway. Well, vesting is a legitimate excuse or exemption, better, for many situations. But for vesting to work, it requires good faith and clean hands. A scammer couldn't come along and scam my dear aunt out of $3,000, and when the cops show up, say, I'm vested. I got the money. What are we going to do? I can't do that. It's not an excuse. So, not to draw too direct an analogy there, but when the reason for the approvals on which they were relied, if indeed they were relied, incidentally, when the problems with the approval process originate with the party who is claiming reliance, it's a clean hands, good faith issue, which incidentally is not resolved by anyone but the courts. Talbot County doesn't judge it, the county attorney doesn't judge it, you and I don't judge it unless you're on the jury. It's judged by the courts after the fact as to whether or not that's an exemption that makes things apply. There's one other. I'm sorry, there was a point there I lost. I'm sorry, Leslie, you had a question. Leslie's question is whether we can share cell phone information for county council members. Every county council member gets a county-issued cell phone paid for by taxes. We've got their numbers. I just got those. I'd be happy to share it with everybody. Let's talk what, I'm trying to make the point, I hope effectively, that if Reset Lakeside is going to be considered, introduced, seconded, and voted on, and adopted, or not, but introduced, voted, and voted on in February, if that's going to have to happen, it's the community, it's you who has to make it happen. But I should mention, I'm not leaving the county. What I can do is help provide communications. I have email lists. I can provide that kind of information. I can answer your questions to the best of my ability. And I'm happy to do that. I mean, it's got to be within compact enough, but if you got a specific question, I'd be happy to answer it, or I can put you to Mr. Hughes or somebody like that who would know.
In a nutshell, what's the timeline of the court situation?
The court situation?
What's the timeline?
Yeah, okay, well, there are 3 different court matters that pertain directly or indirectly to Lakeside. One is the lawsuit that Tip and 11 of your other neighbors, you live on Latrap Creek, brought last spring against MDE. It really pertains to this business of rescinding Resolution 281. That lawsuit, the MDE is challenging, on technical reasons, as is always the case, having to do with motion to dismiss. That, there are various reasons why we're not even permitted to enter the suit because of Reset Lakeside being on the in the recent election, and because it was coming in front of the council, and because if passed, it would make that lawsuit moot, saving everybody a ton of money, time, and trouble. It would moot it. The judge thought it was a good idea to postpone that litigation, even though we're only at the motion to dismiss stage. So the motion to dismiss is heard on April the 14th. If and only if it's not dismissed, Tip and those your neighbors will be able to proceed with the lawsuit, and we've got a crack law firm, McGuire Woods, out of the Western Shore, and they're on top of this like white on rice. And it might get us the result that we're seeking in Reset Lakeside resolution 2 or 2.5 years from now, when things in the field will have gotten only more complicated. It was why that while we have this great confidence in that lawsuit, this is an awful lot better for everybody in the community. The second piece of litigation is that the Talbot County Council, the former county council, awarded a contract in May of last year for a complete rewrite of the comprehensive water and sewer plan for Talbot County. That's all the rules and regs that govern water and sewer issues, including the classification of property and land as immediate priority, which is what Resolution 281 did for Lakeside, you see. So all of that is being rewritten. The contract was awarded to the engineer at Lakeside, Rao Incorporated. Everybody knows this. It never occurred to anybody in the former county council or the county attorney to even think about the question, I wonder if there's a conflict of interest. It never came up. Tip and I sued to set aside that contract because there's also pretty clear evidence that Rao Incorporated assisted the county in preparing the RFP for that contract, and there's a county ordinance where you cannot assist in the preparation of an RFP and then bid on it. That was, we believe, done. There was a motion to dismiss on that, also, and we won that. The case was not dismissed, and this is news, nobody knows this, but last night at about 11 o'clock, the first set of interrogatories and production of documents were served in that case. How swiftly it moves, I don't know. It will be 30 days to the answers to that are back. And TIP is operating, incidentally, on behalf of the public, on behalf of Talbot County taxpayers. So all the paperwork in that case and the interrogatories and what have you, were not for Dan Watson's benefit, but for your benefit. And when that material comes forward, we'll see what comes from it. The third piece of litigation, you asked about the court case, is the episode having to do with the county council having replaced Ms. Gessie with the Planning Commission. There was a lawsuit about that was lost here at the County Circuit Court. Mr. Bartlett, who's standing right here, is among the plaintiffs on that case. It was lost at the County Circuit Court. It was appealed to the appellate courts. It'll go, I'm sure, to the Supreme Court of Maryland. And this might be news to you also. Talbot County and Mr. Corson, the new commissioner, both agreed to an expedited appeal. It was very significant because absent the expedited, all parties had to agree. Absent that, it would have been 2 years and everything would be moot. With it, it'll probably be completed within 3 months. I cannot speak for Trapp or Rocks or anything. I don't know all of the facts. My conjecture, and I was in the business for 50 years, is this, and it's pretty simple. The MDE lawsuit that I alluded to challenges the right of Lakeside to connect the 120 homes that they've built down there, or they're building currently. Challenges the right to connect those to the existing Trapp wastewater treatment plant. Incidentally, you saw the photos over here. There's, however slim the risk, even as perceived by Rock's the developer, that we win. However slim it is, if we were to win, there is a chance that the permits that already exist, and there's a pipe that already runs the sewage over there into that plant, into the Trapp Creek, could be revoked, and that pipe be required to be disconnected. I believe at the settlement table that would have to be disclosed, and while in theory there's no legal prohibition that I know of anyway, why they couldn't sell a house to you down there, it's not crystal clear that you would be willing to buy that house if you knew that you got the house, but you might not be able to flush the toilet. Whereas a lease, and there are, to the best of my take on it, and I've rode through the place, maybe 6, could even be 10 people or homes that are leased, and obviously, lease provisions could deal with that. Any other questions on anything? Yes. Susan is asking the question, how, other than putting pressure on people and approaching things in the negative, how can we help them come let's reason together, as Lyndon Johnson used to say. I don't The answer is I don't know. I would, honest to God, urge every person who has any relationship, personal relationship with a county council person, sufficient that you pick up the phone or get them to chat with you directly. Ask them that question. How can I help you? How can I help you get the yes? But I don't know.
Along those exact lines, I noticed at the last council meeting, in the afternoon, they had a workshop with the town of Pratt. And they never had workshops with us. They've had other workshops, but they never had them with no board communication. And I'm thinking we're getting behind the eight ball because we've got some serious animals that we've never used. And my suggestion is if we have a workshop for ourselves, and over this, we more
Well,
I have one the Washington Post is excited about this on the fresh water. They were talking about fresh water. And I got the answer I've been waiting for at the last meeting in Kent, where the craft attorney said they had 2 wells, freshwater wells drilled. They don't have a water tower for pressure, and they've tapped them, and they are fully connected with the town of Pratt. I don't know how many of you remember Governor Hogan, if he has a financial interest, he was on the board of Public Works with other 3 people. He voted for a $982,310 bond for fresh water. And the Washington Post is asking me, how can I prove that money is
so let me urge that Rebecca's here and would be happy, I'm sure, to chat with anybody who's got an idea how there could be a work session set up between the county council members and who, I'm not sure, because TIP is not a membership organization. TIP is a party who's got many supporters, but it's very informal. So maybe that could be, Rebecca, maybe you could get that set up. But what I want to do now is you can get with Rebecca with these questions. I think we'll adjourn the event as such. There will be a follow-up communication, but I hope and think the message is as clear as the message could be. How about this? Reset Lakeside 3 times. We want to vote 3 times. Reset Lakeside. Reset Lakeside. Reset Lakeside. We want to vote. We want to vote. We do want to vote.
Need a little more rhythm in that.
Folks, if you could help police the area would be great. And please take a few yard signs with you and get them out there.